And when the Zephyrian Empire subjugates potential allies to listening to the oldies or prepare for the worst, they instead find the UES Mercia hospital ship that boasts enough armaments to reduce planets to dust. The medical bay is really a weapons lab. The quarantine section stores chemical weapons, and its surgical infirmary is capable of slicing through alien hulls with frightening precision. When Zephyrian raiders lay siege thinking they're about to plunder wounded humans, they discover a crew of combat medics for whom healing and killing are part of the same skill set. The galaxy learns that human kindness and human savagery are equally monstrous when set loose in the void. The distress beacon, a knife through the void, the modulated language unmistakably human. Commander Vexera of the Zephyrian raider ship Bloodclaw clicked her mandibles together eagerly as the signal resolved on her tactical display. Human ships would be salvage, and salvage meant profit. The ships of the Terran Federation were known for their advanced technology and the laughable inadequacies of their crews to Zephyr's many superior warriors. Report, she barked, her forearms hammering away on the command console independently. Archeon swayed to and fro, and beastmen were snarling and fierce, while they hurried to lash dirty chains of iron to his vessel so none of his crew could leave. His victory shall be our victory, bellowed Norgatol, pounding on hands thick and leathery, over and over until the first bell rang, and then the second, and finally the third, and 3 times 3 hornblasts fell from the black towers. And so the red and the black spears and the black and the grey approached, their banners falling still and then flapping faster and faster, and all began to cheer as the ships collided and grappled, barely able to keep their feet as they poured aboard, metal striking metal in a crash, and again, it always was the same. Night goblins slaughtered en masse beside the withering crew of the Seawolf, but no more. Head by shield, yet we feel compelled to follow the path of damage and ruin, whipping our crew from peak to trough before driving them with spear riven deep in our blood in the whole plow quick and hard, and plunged like a star into the ground. And in the forest, the beastmen swarm and rage and cry out for us to lead, and over rivers of bronze, our tribe, and over mountains of rust, our horde, they vanished in the thunder of the storm, and like torches off the beach it glowed as chaos flowed like fire, and we heard its roar splitter of skulls, and it shattered the Seawolf, and it smashed the Blue Vengeance. And in our blood it drowned Bronze Sea, and none of us could lift a hand to stop it, and in our blood it drowned Iron Sky, and none of us could lift a hand to stop it, and in our blood it drowned Storm, and none of us could lift a hand to stop it. Bloodgoat, a creature of the wind, palanquin to a slave that was brought before him, and ran his taloned hand over his horns. One ship, great displacement, Navigation Officer Krell replied, his scaly hide gleaming under the harsh lights of the bridge. 8 clicks long with emergency codes all hopping round those every bands. No escort vessels detected. Vexthera eyes narrowed. 8 kilometers was big, even from a human's point of view. Their armed dreadnoughts seldom exceeded 6 kilometers, and their liners were usually half that size. Weaponry, minimal energy signatures detected. Looks to be a civilian or support ship. The SOS request broadcasts catastrophic life support. Felurian desires immediate aid. Perfect. It was a stranded whale floating in the dark, ready to be harvested. Vexthera made a name for herself through just these sorts of circumstances. Where it came to human ships, the Zephyrian Empire followed. One simple doctrine: seize all valuable spoils, kill any witnesses, call dibs on salvaging, clean, efficient, profitable, intercept course, battle stations. She commanded, but power down those weapons until we're on board. Before we obliterate this thing, I want to take a look at its load. The Bloodclaw's engines roared into life, and the graceful hunter leapt towards its prey. They shrank the intervening space between themselves and their prey, and before them loomed the human ship, expanding on the viewscreen like a metal mountain rising from the mists of creation. The ship was gleaming white, inscribed with crimson odd symbols that appeared to faintly luminesce beneath the starlit night. What are those markings? Vexthera inquired, peering at the foreign symbols, cross-referencing with our human factor. Catalog, Krell responded, his claws tapping his console. It is medical. This vessel is known as US Mercy, type hospital ship. The laugh of Vexthera was the sound of grinding metal. A hospital ship, even better. Medical supplies, surgical equipment, pharmaceuticals. Just the black market value alone will finance our operations for a year. The Bloodclaw skimmed alongside the huge craft, its scanning arrays absorbing the whole. The US Mercy, clearly a hospital ship if there ever was one, was covered in docking bays, communications arrays, and what appeared to be huge medical facility observation bays, but something seemed amiss to Vexthera keen-eyed. The ship was too clean, too together for a true ship in distress. Thermal readings, she asked. Minimal. Life support seems to be at half-mast. We're reading about 300 life signs. Spread across the ship. I think they're sort of clustered in the middle parts. 300 humans. Not a big crew for a ship this size, but big enough to get some good intel on human medical technology before they were terminated. Vexthera could not help but imagine the boarding pattern, the salvage order, the optimal ratio of suppression to resistance. Prepare the boarding parties. Good to go with all combat gear, but non-lethal suppressors for the first sweep. I need prisoners that can tell us what's in this ship's cargo log. The docking clamps of the Blood Claw attached to the Mercy's hull with a powerful clang that could be heard even through the hull of the two ships. Vexthera observed her tactical readout as 24 of her best warriors got ready to board the human vessel. Every single Zephyrian raider was close to 3 meters tall. Their exoskeletons impervious to most human armaments, their native agility making them damned effective marauders on ship. Breach in 3, 2, 1. Assault leader voice squawked into the cum. The cutting charges went off with precision of the surgeon, creating an optimum entry point in the Mercy's hull. Vexthera observed the raid through the helmet cameras of his warriors as they poured into the breach like a river of death into the sterile white halls of the human ship. The first thing to hit her was the silence. Hospital ships should be buzzing with the sounds of medical equipment and the voices of the staff. Instead, the Mercy hallways were deathly silent, bathed only in the dim blue light of emergency lighting. Grix report, she ordered. Corridor secured. No resistance encountered. The architecture is unconventional for a medical facility. They are also too broad to be required for normal traffic, and the walls are thicker than those in civilian buildings. Proceed to the medical bays. Find me those humans. The boarding party pushed further into the ship, and for some reason their every step was deafening in the thin metal hallways. Vexthera noted the walls were adorned with what looked like medical equipment, only all of it looked off somehow. Too heavy, too militaristic, too civilian. Commander Grix sounded intrigued. We're standing where the ship directory describes as Medical Bay 7, but this doesn't look like any hospital I've ever visited. The camera broadcast showed a large chamber lined with rows of what seemed like surgical tables. Only each was fitted with restraint systems that were more reminiscent of the ones used for the most dangerous of prisoners rather than patients. The surgical apparatus dangled from the ceiling like mechanical spiders, their many arms teeming with cutting implements that looked good for more than just surgery. Keep moving. Touch any humans, Vexthera commanded, but already she was tasting the first pulse of unease. The raiders worked their way through the maze of the ship and behind each door found yet another bizarre medical room. There were labs that could have been easily mistaken for armories, quarantine chambers for prison cells, and surgeries with atmospheric processes, capable of supporting dozens of variable environmental conditions at once. Commander Grix's voice held a new note of worry. I'm reading movement ahead. Massive group of people in what looks like the main medical compound. Proceed with caution. Standard intimidation protocols. In the camera, the boarding party was heading toward a huge pair of doors, etched with the identical red symbols they'd viewed on the side of the ship. The doors slid open with a gentle hiss, revealing a scene that turned Vexthera's blood to ice. The chamber ahead of us was huge, easily the size of a tiny city block. But it was the people waiting inside, rather than the size, that gave her pause. 300 of them, exactly as their scans had shown. But these were not the scared, helpless civilians she had imagined populating a disabled hospital ship. And all of them had stood in such neat lines. All of them wearing the same white uniform emblazoned with those red symbols. Their expressions were cool, professional, almost serene. A human female at their head, her silver hair drawn up so tight in a bun it created wrinkles in her skin, had extra symbols decorating her uniform, but one look let them know who was really in charge. Welcome aboard the U.S. Mercy, the woman declared loudly. For even as echoey as it was in the chamber, her words came through clearly. I'm Dr. Catherine Reeves, Chief Medical Officer. I believe you answered our distress call. Grix drew his weapon, and so did the other Zephyrian raiders. Under the authority of the Zephyrian Empire, this craft has now been reclaimed by us. You will give up at once and get ready to be processed. Dr. Reeves' smile, and something about that smile sent vibrations up and down Vexthera's chitinous exoskeleton. I'm sorry, but I believe there is a mistake. The Mercy isn't in distress. We're right where we want to be. Grix suppressed them now. Vexthera barked into her cum, but as the Zephyrians went to fire, the humans attacked first. Not like a bunch of civilians running for their lives, but with the mechanical, coordinated efficacy of a military company overrunning a position. In moments they had spread out around the chamber, utilizing heavily reinforced equipment, but the Vexthera could now see was not medical gear, but very advanced shielding disguised as hospital implements. Grix, get out of there, she screamed, but it was too late. The humans shot back from weapons that were hidden on all sides of the chamber. But they were not the crude kinetic weapons used by human military forces. They were precise weapons that fired focused beams of energy, and every shot had been intentionally calibrated to disable, not kill. The Zephyrian raiders were struck dumb by what could only have been a neural disruptor, even though the weapons did not look the part, their weapons clattering to the deck as their nervous systems were systematically disabled. Fascinating, Dr. Reeves mused, looking down at the prone figure of Grix. Zephyrian biology is very different from any of our previous test subjects. The circuitry of the brain is much more complex, but this same principle is at work in the basic autonomic functions. Kneeling next to the fallen raider, she took out a medical scanner. Salone demonstrates tachycardia, respiratory distress, with an intact neurologic status. Perfect for our purposes. What are you doing to my soldiers? Vexthera barked on. The COMMS. Dr. Reeves peered into the fallen raider's helmet camera, her expression all professional interest. Conducting a preliminary examination. After all, the Mercy is a hospital ship. We're always eager to hear about new forms of life, especially ones that might be harmful to human colonists. You're not a medic, Vexthera realized. You're military. Oh, but we're medical. Dr. Reeves responded. Everybody aboard that ship is a trained medical person. We haven't scraped ourselves raw on the basic subtleties of xenobiology, xenobiological anatomy, and xenophysiology. We know exactly how to heal. She took a pause, smiling even wider. And exactly how to harm. The camera feed flipped, and on-screen she created what appeared to be some sort of medical injector except a liquid inside. The device glowed with an unnatural blue light. This is an altered form of a medical nanite solution. In human physiology, it would fix the body's cells and speed the healing process. It will be most edifying in Zephyrian anatomy. Stop, Vexthera cried out. But between words Dr. Reeves had already injected him. Grix's body jerked as the mass of nanites lanced through him, his exoskeleton lighting up with that same blue light. But rather than hurt, the effect felt like it was mapping his entire nervous system, coupling together perfectly formed three-dimensional images of his biological structure. Interesting, Dr. Reeves muttered, looking at the medical readings in her scanner. Their exoskeleton is more than armor. It's a key part of their circulatory system, and these neural clusters are many times more complex than any of the intel briefs said they'd be. She rose, and now it was like she was speaking directly to the helmet camera. Commander, I take it you are watching this. I need you to know something very important. Yes, the US Mercy is a hospital ship. We care for the sick. We save lives. We have vowed to do everything in our power to spare the lives of others across the galaxy, but we're also human. Her expression hardened, and humans have learned that sometimes the best way to save a life is to take one. The greatest way to avoid suffering is to create it. The only way to save the good is to become evil. On the camera feed, other paralyzed Zephyrians were being borne away by medical teams. One of the shuffling doctors beside each litter making small talk about their patients, using the clinical tones they might have for lab specimens. There is a collection of every biological and chemical weapon known to human science in the quarantine part of our ship, continued Dr. Reeves. No, not because we take pleasure in making stuff like this, but because it's important to be prepared. A good doctor has to learn about disease in order to treat it, and a great doctor also learns from death in order to forestall it. Vexthera felt as if the coldness traveled through her bloodstream. What do you want? To study, Dr. Reeves said simply. The Zephyrian Empire has been raiding human ships for 3 years. Hundreds of ships, thousands of lives gone. We have tested diplomacy, sanctions, and even military intervention. None of it worked. So we decided to adopt a medical approach. She started walking around the chamber, her medical staff busily moving around her. Well, you know, the thing about the Zephyrian raiding culture is it is a social pathology. It has spread through your society like a virus, sucking up resources, destroying lives, locking you into cycles of violence. From the medical point of view, it's a disease that needs to be treated. Treatment. Vexthera was barely audible. We're going to cure your empire of its violence addiction, Dr. Reeves said. But first, we need to know what's the underlying pathology. Your soldiers will give us precious intel on Zephyrian biology, psychology, and their social organization. We will learn how your kind thinks, how you fight, how you feel pain and fear. She stopped at a staff station where a member of her team was setting up what looked to be a surgical suite. The surgical tools aboard this ship can operate with precision that is measured in billionths of a meter. Every neuron, every muscle fiber, every point of instinctive response can be mapped. We can dissect your warriors' minds and bodies as precisely as we dissect human patients to cure them. You're speaking of torture, Vextara charged. I mean research, Dr. Reeves said. The very same research that enables us to cure diseases, heal injuries, and save lives. It's the same tools, with only the application being different. She indicated the huge chamber in which they sat. This ship is equipped with the finest medical facilities in the galaxy. We can keep your soldiers alive forever, to study them. I think we can fix them from fatal injury, and subject them to new injury as well, to better understand. We can map their pain responses, map their fear responses, their breaking points, and then we can restore them to perfect health and start all over again. This will never be approved by human government, Vextera pleaded. The human government tasked us with solving the Zephyrian issue, Dr. Reeves said. They did not specify what solution, and we're not breaking any laws. We are providing medical care to wounded prisoners of war. She grinned that awful grin once more. And your soldiers were hurt when they violated our ship. That makes them patients, not inmates. And we are very good to our patients. On the camera feed we saw Grix being wheeled into what seemed to be a surgical theater, his body paralyzed and surrounded by equipment that felt less medical and more tortury. But Vexthera also knew that technically they were the same sense of precision that could perform a delicate operation could as easily inflict exquisite pain. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice hollow. Your cooperation, Dr. Reeves replied. The Mercy is going to take out every Zephyrian raider base in this sector. If we come across anyone, we're going to give them medical attention. When we're through, we will have learned everything there is to know about your species' military strength, mental processes, and societal institutions. She started to walk back toward the chamber's approach. But far more critically, we'd have cured the cultural pathology that drives your empire's aggression. Nanotech and cyberware, custom-killed polyviruses that mess with your brain chemistry, nanites that alter your behavior patterns, psychological conditioning that can reprogram a whole population. But you're speaking of genocide, Vextera whispered. I mean healing, Dr. Reeves interjected. We will cure your empire of the need for violence. We are going to heal the trauma that is driving your species to hurt one another. We are going to save your people from you. Her expression softened slightly. I realize how scary that sounds, but I need you to know something. Each man on this ship is committed to life without end in healing. We became doctors as we believe in the sanctity of life. In redemption, that medicine makes the universe a better place. She stopped at the entrance to the chamber. But we're also human, and humans have learned, sometimes the most merciful action is to become something monstrous. At times, the only way to save a life is to threaten it. Sometimes you have to reach a point of no return to be able to mend a wound. If we were recording, it would show the huge doors starting to close, and Dr. Reeves' voice still issuing forth through the comm system. Your warriors will be well looked after, Commander. We will learn from them, and then one day, we will use that knowledge to help your entire race. They will help us to find a cure for the disease that has been devouring your empire. The hatches closed with a quiet hiss. The visual link was cut, but Vextera could still hear the medical bay through the communication implants that their warriors bore. The drone of advanced medical equipment, the low murmur of voices, and beneath it all, the faint echoing of their people being analyzed, piece by piece, like specimens in a laboratory. Common_R Commander. Her navigation officer cut in. Should we retreat? Vextera gazed at the tactical display, her thoughts swirling. The youth Mercy was not making any aggressive maneuvers, charging weapons, or acting in any way hostile. From all external dimensions, it is exactly what it looked like, a hospital, a ship administering medical care to the wounded. But she knew the truth. The humans had weaponized their compassion, and had turned their healing arts into tools of oppression. They'd built something much more frightening than a dreadnought, or even a battle cruiser, a warship which didn't defeat its opponents with superior firepower, but with superior thought. No, she said finally. We stay, we monitor, we learn, Commander. They will learn our people, Vexera said, but they're also going to show what they're made of. All that they do, all the tricks they do, all the things that they do, everything that they do, everything is out there, for you, for us to use against them. She keyed the ship's long-range comms array. Notify Imperial Command of an urgent communication. Let them know that we've found something different, something that requires immediate attention. For hours after that, Vextera watched every last squeak the Mercy gave. For all intents and purposes, the ship's medical facilities operated in a state-of-the-art manner, and seemed to be administering first-class treatment to the captured Zephyr. But she could also see the tiny telltales of the research Dr. Reeves had explained, the deep tissue scans, the neurological mapping, the psychological screenings. The humans were finding out all about Zephyrian physiology and psyche, were doing so with the same methodical precision with which they would cure a disease. Commander, her communications officer reported, we're getting a signal from the Mercy. It's addressed to you personally. Put it through. Dr. Reeves came on the line from the bridge, cool and professional as always. Commander, I have a report on the condition of your warriors. They're responding well to treatment. We have been able to chart their full physiological profiles, and I'm happy to say they are in excellent health. What have you done to them? Administered medical care, Dr. Reeves answered. We've addressed a few nutritional deficiencies, a few minor injuries, that sort of thing. And we've started working with some of the minor psychological trauma we saw in their neurological patterns. Your warriors have been under tremendous stress for a long time, and we're trying to help them recognize the trauma that they have had to cope with during their service. Vextera could feel her hands ball up into fists. Release them. That would not be medically indicated. I'm afraid, Dr. Reeves said. They're still undergoing treatment, but I would be happy to make you talk to them if you like. They're very comfortable, and they've been very cooperative with their therapy sessions. Psychological counseling, Dr. Reeves explained. Many Zephyrian raiders, we find, have unresolved emotional trauma which causes them to act aggressively. We're helping them process those issues, identify the root causes of their violence, and learn healthier ways to cope. For a second the comm channel was hissing with bursts of static, and then the interference resolved. Grix wants to talk to you. Vexthara's heart leaped. Grix, are you there, Commander? Her assault leader was very calm, almost relaxed. Just so you know, I'm okay. The humans have been helpful. They have helped me learn about things in myself that I had never known were kind of things. The anger, Grix said softly, the need to hurt others. I had always looked at it as strength, but these doctors here have shown me that. No, it's not that. It's actually a form of a reaction to trauma and fear that was handed down through generations of our people. Vexera felt ice racing through her veins. Grix, you have to fight whatever it is they're doing to you, and I'm not doing anything about them. Commander, they're helping me understand myself. Do you know that the Zephyrian we've been fighting with, the exoskeleton he puts me in, injects extra hormones in his body when we're fighting, addiction-inducing hormones of violence? That's not true. It is, Grix replied. They showed me. The scans. My gut's been brewing combat stimulants for so long it can't process anything else, but they can fix that. They can help me feel well again. Archer, read me. The voice of Dr. Reeves came back on the channel. Commander, I need you to know we're not hurting your fighters. We're healing them. The violence that inspires the Zephyrian pillage culture is an illness, and we're working on a cure, by brainwashing them, by treating their trauma. Dr. Reeves said, your whole kind, locked in a cycle of violence. You hurt the other because you are hurt yourselves, and we're going to give you all the help you need to break that cycle. And if we refuse, then you will still continue to suffer, Dr. Reeves replied flatly. And, more importantly, you will keep inflicting pain. The Mercy is only the first of 12 hospital ships heading to this region. We're going to treat with or without their consent every Zephyrian we take. That's not medicine, Vexera protested. That's conquest. Is it colonization when we vaccinate children against infectious disease? Dr. Reeves asked. So when we do surgery on unconscious patients, is that a conquest? Sometimes the best medical care takes place against the patient's will because the patient is not capable of rational choice about their health. There was a pause and the channel went quiet, and Dr. Reeves spoke again. Your empire is sick, Commander. It has been sick for a long time. The killing, the looting, and the relentless belligerence are symptoms of deeper pathology. We're going to end that pathology, not with arms or war, but with medicine and a decency. What happens to our culture, our way of life? Your culture changes, Dr. Reeves said. It stretches beyond where it is at the moment. Your people learn to discover purpose and value in creation, not destruction. Your style of life becomes something that constructs rather than demolishes. And if we fight back, then you'd be in battle with doctors who are trying to help you, Dr. Reeves said. Fighting doctors who have dedicated their lives to healing. Struggling against your own shot at redemption. The channel crackled once more, and Grix was back on the line. Commander, I've been reflecting on the sorties we've taken, the humans we've killed, the suffering we've caused. I didn't realize the pain we have caused innocent people to endure. They are battle casualties, Vextara answered definitively. They're part of war. But why are we at war? Grix asked. What are we fighting for? What is it we are attempting to do? Vextara tried to speak but found herself without a reply. The traditional reasons, gaining access to resources, expanding territory, establishing species dominance, just suddenly felt hollow and meaningless. The doctors made me understand that we are not fighting for anything, Grix said. We're just a bunch of hurting people, and we're hurting people because we're hurt. We are scattering our pain because we don't know how to heal our pain. No, it isn't, Vextara replied, but she sounded unsure. It did, Dr. Reeves said, and that's why we're here. Not to destroy your empire, but to reconcile it. Not to rule over your people, but to save them from themselves. The line closed, and Vextara was alone with her thoughts. She glanced at the tactical display, her eyes drawn to the serene position of the Mercy to her own ship. The hospital ship took no aggressive action. It exhibited no hostile intent. It was just there in space, a white tribute to human compassion and inventiveness. But she knew the truth. The humans had weaponized their greatest strength, their ability to heal and evolve. They had weaponized their knowledge of health, more lethal than any machine ever invented. Vextara spends the next few days increasingly uneasy observing the Mercy. The medbay ran shifts, treating her prisoners as they worked on the research. Dr. Reeves had mentioned she could feel the dull energy of deep tissue scanners, neurological mappers, and psychological analyzers. The humans were soaking up all there was to know about Zephyrian physiology and psychology, and they were doing it with the same kind of methodical precision with which they would cure cancer or fix a broken heart. Commander, her communications officer reported. Another message coming in from the Mercy. Put it through. Again, it was Dr. Reeves on the bridge. Commander, I have good news. We've finished that first round of treatment for your fighters. They want to get back to work. You're releasing them. We are essentially putting them back in active service, Dr. Reeves said. They've done well with treatments, and we think they are prepared to lead their daily lives. We're getting ready to move them back to your ship. Vextara felt a burst of hope mingled with suspicion. What's the catch? No catch, Dr. Reeves responded. We're doctors. It is our work to heal patients and make them well. Your fighters are healthy, so we're letting them go. Less than an hour later, the shuttle bay doors of the Mercy slide apart and a shuttle emerged. Vextara stared out of the view screen as the shuttle drew closer to the Bloodclaw, the hull gleaming white against the backdrop of stars. The vehicle's lock sounded as it docked with her ship's receiving bay, and in moments her 24 warriors were back on board. But something was wrong. Vextara could feel it the second they stepped foot onto the bridge. They still had the same dichotomy of motion as before, nothing wrong with their exoskeletons or weapons or anything else. But something had changed in their eyes, a kind of peace, an absence of fury that had not been there before. Grix, she said, eyeing her assault leader. Report. The humans are good to us, Commander, Grix said. They were great in medicine and also made us understand some really crucial things about ourselves and our species. What kind of things? The generational cycle of violence that has impassioned our culture, Grix said. How trauma and pain is passed down from generation to generation. The ways we learn to survive our own suffering by passing it along to others, and what's your mind on that? Grix fell silent for a moment, gaze thoughtful. I want to change things, Commander. There must be a better way for our people. A better way. Vextara felt her alarm growing. What do you mean? I'm not saying we've got to raid each other, Grix said. We don't have to harm people to live. We have intelligence, skills, technology. We could be pioneering. We could be trading. We could be learning. We'd be able to give back to the galaxy, not just gut it. We're not like that, Vex objected. We're warriors. We're Zephyrians. Being Zephyrian doesn't have to be about violence, Grix said. The humans showed us that. They're like the most advanced species in known space, and they've based their entire civilization on healing and growth. And also one of the most dangerous, Vextara added. They have weaponized their medical expertise. Have they? Grix asked. Well, are they doing something to assist people without harming them? The doctors on the Mercy could have killed us so easily. They might have tortured us, experimented on us, made us test subjects. Instead, they treated us with respect and Humanity, they reprogrammed you, Vexthura accused. They reminded us of who we once were, Grix corrected. Before the violence, before the raiding, before the pernicious, never-ending cycle of pain and anger. They were reminders of what it's like to be at peace. Vexthura looked at the faces of her other warriors, and she saw that same strange calm in their eyes. They hadn't been brainwashed. Exactly. They were still themselves, still with a will, and a mind of their own. But their time on the Mercy had fundamentally altered them. What do you want to do? She asked. Go home, Grix replied. Go back to our families, our neighborhoods. Teach to others what we know. Explain to them that this is not the way to live. And if they don't listen, then we'll wait, Grix replied. Change takes time, but it will happen, Commander. It has to happen. The other is too horrible to think about. Vexthura had a cold feeling settle in her chest. The humans had not killed her warriors or rendered them into automatons. They did something much worse to them. They gave them hope. They had given them a glimpse of what their race could be, and that glimpse was going viral within her crew. Commander, her communications officer called. We are picking up a signal from Imperial Command. They're asking for an urgent situation report. Vexthura switched on the long-range communication array, her mind racing as she considered how she would explain what had taken place. How would she ever explain Mercy without preaching herself into a padded cell? How could she describe that the humans had turned compassion itself into a weapon? Human Command, this is Commander Vex. With the Black Claw, I'm sending a complete report about the human hospital ship we ran across. Received, Commander. What do you feel your risk is? Vexthura stopped, looking the Mercy over on her tactical display. The vessel continued to sit tranquilly. No demonstration was made of offense or defiance. Its infirmary had remained operational, her crew working with the same professionalism and efficiency she'd grown accustomed to in the years after they'd first met. Extreme, she said finally. These humans, they're fighting a whole new kind of war. They are applying their scientific knowledge to change the basic constitution of what we are. Our critics aren't trying to kill us, they're trying to save us from ourselves, explain. They've discovered how to cure violence as a disease, Vexthura said. They can dissect the psychological and physiological roots of aggression, and they can change them so that peace and cooperation prevail in their stead. So what you are saying is that they can cure aggression. I mean their ability can cure the trauma that creates aggression. Vexthura responded. They can be the people who end the violence that has defined our culture for generations. They can make warriors into healers, raiders into builders, conquerors into educators. And this you view as a threat. Vexthura glanced at her crew and met the steady resolve in their eyes. They were still faithful to her, ready to obey her commands. But they were also fundamentally unlike the warriors she had led just days earlier. To me, it is the end of our way of life, she added. And if the humans manage to cure our entire species, there will be no Zephyrian Empire, no more raids of fleets, no more territorial expansion, no more military conquest. We'll become something else entirely. Something better, Imperial Command asked. The question was out there like a dare. Vexthura noticed her own thoughts were drawn to the humans she had met during her stay, to Dr. Reeves and her staff of healers. They had spent their lives healing, saving lives, making the universe better. And in a few days' time they had achieved more of their goals than the Zephyrian Empire had managed in centuries of combat. Yes, she said finally, something better. There was a long pause on the communication end. Then the voice of Imperial Command came, sounding slightly defeated. Go back to base right now, Commander. That's an order. Bring your gang and all the intel you have on the human hospital ship. We need to know what we're dealing with. Understood, Vexthura replied. But you may want to know the humans have another 11 ships like this one. They are not going to stop with us. They're going to treat every Zephyrian they find until they cure our entire species. Cured of what? The desire to hurt others, Vexthura said. The addiction to violence. Through multiple generations of our people, the trauma that is inherited. They're going to heal us, like it or not. She cut the transmission and addressed her crew. Grix and the rest of the warriors had their faces pulled in those expressions of patient understanding, waiting on her command. But she also understood that whatever she ordered them to do, they would interpret it through their new lens, their new sense of what it meant to be alive in a universe rich in opportunities for growth and healing. Set a course for home, she commanded. Yes, Commander, Grix replied. But if you don't mind, maybe we should go about this in a different way. We have some human colonies nearby, and I don't believe it would be intelligent to antagonize them. Why not? Since they are not our enemies, Grix said. They're simply human beings who are trying to live in peace. and we're people trying to figure out how to live ours." Vexthera looked at him, and she found the warrior who had been her commander for years was now someone she hardly knew. He was still strong, still able, still faithful, but he was also something new, something that put more store in healing than hurting, in building than destroying, in hope than despair. "Very well," she said. "Lay in a course that doesn't take us through human space." As the Blood Claw's engine's power